Okay everyone, recently I have been doing a fair amount of one-shots with the added goal of actually finishing them in a single session, and here I am to share what I've learned. Your goal when writing a true one-session one-shot should be to create an on-brand, cliche, and recognizable quest. Your players should be able to tell from your title and brief adventure hook what kind of situations they expect to find themselves in, and be able to plan a character accordingly. In other words, no session zero. This is a one-shot and we don't have time to plan characters together. Just let players come to the table with whatever they want from the core D&D books, PHB, Xanathars, and Tashas. Honestly, when the players don't coordinate, you can find yourself with some interesting parties. Speaking of character creation, the sweet spot is level 5. Experienced players will be able to create characters they find fun to play, and you as the DM will be able to throw some pretty decent stats at your party. For first-timers or inexperienced players, level 3 or 4 is a good compromise. It gives your players a bit beyond the basic abilities, and some additional hit points for survivability. I recommend at least level 4 because players will get one round of ability score improvements. It helps make them more consistent and powerful for the adventure. Starting equipment is more than enough, but if you want to include magic items, steer clear of allowing the party to pick them themselves. You don't want any curveballs or anything. Instead, you can include magic items as small rewards during the course of the one-shot. Usually when making a one-shot, I revolve it around a deadly encounter and add a few key items that can be found during the adventure leading up to it. These items expose the boss's weakness and allow the party to overcome a more difficult challenge. Your party also feels rewarded for their actions during the early stages of the quest. This is actually a great way to plan low-level one-shots in general. Unless there is a really good narrative reason for it, your one-shot should take place over the course of a single rest period. Player characters have more than enough expendable resources. I usually do 1 or 2 combats in total. It is typical for me to have a very short combat encounter early, and then a deadly boss encounter at the conclusion. If you want to get more resources out of your party, you can have traps and other hazards impede them and cause them to expend resources. Traps take far less time than running a combat. For your setting, it is good to keep things focused and small. Traditional dungeons, especially ones with too many branching paths, are ill-advised. The more choices presented to the party, the longer it would take them to reach the conclusion. I tend to avoid classic dungeons entirely in my one-shots unless the entire one-shot is just the dungeon. Dungeon crawling one-shots are famous and can be a blast. Recently, I had a really good time with Strahd Must Die Tonight and would recommend it for anyone interested in checking out Ravenloft or who want a dungeon crawling one-shot. However, if you want to have sections that are outside of the dungeon, like in a village or a forest, then you probably want to keep your conclusion dungeon relatively Kragmaw hideout sized. Locations like a monster's cave, an old shipwreck, a wizard's tower, they can be perfect as they will all have limited rooms and your party can conceptualize the layout with relative ease. When writing your one-shot, I think it can be fun to revolve the story around a climactic moment that leads into the final encounter. Something shocking or memorable, like the dragon egg the party has been tasked with protecting hatches right as the boss fight begins, or an ally reveals themselves to be an enemy in disguise, or a trap that drops the entire party into an aboleth's tank. Don't be afraid to take the reins here a bit, Baldur's Gate 3 cutscene style. This moment should be the thing your players remember about your one-shots years later when reminiscing. Most of the time, the reason I'm even doing a one-shot is because one player can't make it to my weekly game. So I decided to do a one-shot for everyone else to keep us all entertained, and usually to test some new material I've been working on. Something you can do for your players, if they enjoy the occasional one-shot, is you can have them all take place in a continuous universe. I almost always have everyone create new characters, but having a unique one-shot setting can help with your world-building experience for your main game. Another thing you could do is focus on one particular town or area in the Forgotten Realms. Many of my one-shots take place in the area around Daggerford, and this allows the players to see characters they have met in previous adventures and have a sense of continuity. Well, that is all. That is the video. I hope this helped motivate you to finally rate that one-shot that is always on your mind, and as always, thanks for watching.